Jake Miller liked quiet nights. He lived on the edge of a small town, near the forest. He enjoyed sitting in his backyard, looking at the stars. It helped him forget about his boring job and busy days. That night, the sky was clear, the moon was bright, and a cool breeze moved the trees. Jake sat on a folding chair with a cup of coffee in hand. Everything was calm, peaceful, and normal, until the light appeared. It wasn't a star. It wasn't a plane. It was something fast and glowing. Dropping from the sky, it burned bright green and made no sound. Jake stood up, eyes wide. The object flew over the trees and crashed into the forest. He heard a distant thump, not loud, but heavy. The ground shook a little under his feet. What was that? He whispered to himself. Curiosity won over fear. He grabbed a flashlight, put on a jacket, and walked toward the woods. His dog Max barked once, but stayed behind. Jake told him, "Stay, boy. I'll be back." As he moved deeper into the trees, the night grew quiet. No wind, no insects, no sound at all. Only the crunch of dry leaves under his boots. Soon, he saw a faint green glow between the trees. He walked slowly, heart beating fast. When he reached the clearing, he stopped. In front of him was a strange pod, round and silver. It pulsed with light like it was breathing. Jake took a step closer. The pod opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a small creature, shaped like a dog, but clearly not from Earth. It had smooth silver fur, blue glowing eyes, and 3 small tails. Jake dropped his flashlight. The creature walked out of the pod and looked up at him. Then, to his shock, it spoke. "You should prepare, human. We're having puppies." Jake blinked, not sure he heard it right. He stared at the alien dog, unable to move. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The creature tilted its head, as if confused by his silence. "I said, we're having puppies," it repeated calmly. Jake's legs went weak, and he dropped to the ground. Everything went black as he fainted. When he opened his eyes, it was morning. Sunlight came through his window, and birds chirped outside. He was lying in his bed. Under the covers, Max sat near the door, wagging his tail. Jake sat up quickly. "Was it a dream?" he whispered. He looked around. Everything looked normal until the door opened by itself. In walked the same silver creature. Its blue eyes blinked slowly. "Ah, good. You're awake. We have much to do, Jake?" Jake's mouth dropped open again. You're real," he said. "Yes," the alien said. "My name is Luma. And we're in this together now." Jake held his head, trying to make sense of it. "What do you mean? What puppies? What are you?" Luma walked across the room and sat near Max, surprisingly. Max didn't bark. He sniffed Luma and wagged his tail like they were old friends. "I come from Canadra, a planet far from here," Luma said. "We are a peaceful species. We explore and learn from other worlds." Jake listened carefully, still trying to stay calm. Luma continued. "Some weeks ago, your satellite released a strange energy signal. It touched our ship while passing Earth." Jake remembered fixing a satellite transmitter a month ago. He didn't think it was a big deal, but Luma's next words shocked him. "Our tech and your tech interacted. It created something new, something alive. Inside that pod are hybrid embryos. They carry Canadran and human energy. You're there." Co-creator Jake stared at her, eyes wide. "You're saying?" "I'm the father of alien puppies." Luma nodded. "In a way, yes, and now you must help protect them." Jake stood up slowly. "This is too much. Aliens, puppies, weird tech. Why me?" Luma looked serious now, because others know about the pups, dangerous ones. Jake felt a cold chill run down his spine. "Who?" he asked. "They're called the Varkan," Luma said. "They will come for the puppies. And they will stop at nothing." Jake looked at Max, then at Luma. He took a deep breath. Okay, I'm listening. Tell me what we have to do. Luma's eyes glowed brighter. Good choice, human. Now, let's begin. Jake still couldn't believe it. Talking silver alien dog had just told him he was going to be a parent, not just any parent, a co-creator of alien puppies. And now, the creature was walking through his house like it belonged there. Her name was Luma. She had soft silver fur, blue glowing eyes, and moved with calm grace. Her voice was clear and smooth, not robotic, but warm. Jake followed her to the kitchen, still trying to understand what was happening. I need coffee, he mumbled. I don't drink, but I've read about coffee. Luma said politely. She sat down on the floor next to Max, Jake's dog, surprisingly. Max seemed to like her. He even let her nibble his ear playfully. Jake poured himself a cup and sat across from them. Start from the beginning, please, he said. Like slow, Luma nodded gently. I am a scout from Canadra, she began. It is a world much older than Earth, where creatures like me evolved. We are not just animals. We are thinkers, builders, explorers. Our ships travel far. Searching for learning and connection, Jake nodded slowly, taking it in. But how did I get involved in this? He asked. You didn't do it on purpose, Luma said. Some weeks ago, one of your satellites sent out a pulse. Jake blinked. I remember. I fixed something on the power relay. It short-circuited during reboot. Luma's ears twitched. That moment caused a ripple in the sky, she explained. It touched one of our genetic chambers during flight. Your signal blended with our energy data. Jake leaned forward. Are you saying my satellite, ... accidentally made babies? With your ship? In a way, yes, she said calmly. The fusion created hybrid embryos, part Canadran, part human. And since your signal was the spark, you're seen as their co-source. Jake put a hand on his forehead. This is insane, he whispered. Luma stood up and walked over to the hallway. Come, let me show you something, she said. Jake followed her to his garage last night. He had hidden the strange pod behind some tools and blankets. Now? It was glowing softly, humming like it was alive. Luma placed a paw on its surface. The top became transparent. Inside, small orbs floated gently in a blue fluid. Tiny shapes moved inside the orbs, not quite puppies. Not quite human, they're still growing. Luma whispered, but they already feel. Jake stared at them with wide eyes. They're beautiful, he said, without realizing it. Yes, Luma agreed, and fragile. Which is why we must protect them. Jake turned to her. From what? Luma's glowing eyes dimmed for a moment. There are others who want them, she said. Others who fear what these hybrids may become. She walked over to a small device resting beside the pod. It projected a hologram of a dark, spiked spaceship. These are the Varkon, she said. They are not explorers. They are takers. They want power, not peace. And when they learn of these pups, they will come. Jake took a deep breath. So, what do we do? For now, Luma said, we must stay hidden. I can block most signals, but not forever. Jake nodded. I know this town. I can help hide things. Luma looked at him with what felt like a soft smile. I'm glad you're not running away, she said. Jake smirked. I think I passed the point of normal last night. They started setting up small shields around the garage. Luma gave Jake a wristband. It lit up and projected a small scanner. With this, you can read pod status and block energy surges, she explained. Jake tried it and smiled. This is way cooler than my phone. As the day passed, Jake and Luma worked together. She taught him how to use alien tools in simple ways. He showed her how to power things using a car battery and a solar panel. Max stayed close. As if he understood this was his new pack. That evening, Jake sat outside again, but now the stars looked different. He knew one of them was Canadra, and somewhere beyond those stars, enemies were watching. He looked at Luma. who sat quietly next to him. "Do you think I'll be a good co-parent?" he asked. Luma didn't answer right away. Instead, she placed a paw on his arm. "You already are, Jake," she said softly. "But remember, this is only the beginning." Above them, far beyond the sky, a cold red light blinked once, and something very old had just awakened. The night was quiet again, but Jake couldn't sleep. He sat on the couch, eyes half open, holding a cup of cold coffee. His body was tired, but his mind wouldn't stop racing. Upstairs, the alien puppies floated safely inside the glowing pod. Luma stood by the window, watching the trees. Her ears twitched every few seconds. Max lay beside her, awake but calm. They both sensed something coming, even before Jake did. "I thought today would be the weirdest day of my life," Jake said quietly, "but somehow this feels worse than yesterday." Luma didn't look at him. "The air is changing," she said softly. "They're close." Jake stood up quickly. "The Varkon." Luma nodded, her blue eyes glowing faintly. "They've sent scouts, small ones first. They'll try to find the energy signature from the pod." Jake looked out the window, but saw nothing. "Can we block them again?" he asked. "I've already masked the garage," Luma replied. "But a skilled hunter can smell through shields." Jake grabbed the wristband scanner and tapped the screen. It showed a blinking red dot at the edge of the forest. "That's new," he said. "Yes." Luma answered. "That's them." They moved quickly. Turning off all lights in the house, Jake sealed the doors and checked every window. He had never used a weapon in his life, but tonight he wished he had something more than a broom. Luma reached into a small pouch near her leg. She handed Jake a small silver rod. "Press this button if you see them," she said. "It will create a blinding flash and an energy pulse." Jake held it tightly. Nodding, outside, the wind picked up. Leaves rustled in the dark. But the air felt wrong, heavy and sharp, like something ancient was breathing through the trees. Then they heard it, a low growl, not from any earth animal. It was long and full of hunger. Max's fur stood up as he growled back from the edge of the woods. A shape moved. It was tall, hunched, with skin like wet stone and yellow glowing eyes. Its nose sniffed the air as it stepped forward slowly. Luma whispered, "Varkan Scout." "Stay low." Jake crouched behind the couch, his heart pounding. He watched as the creature stopped near the garden. It tilted its head, sniffed again, then let out a soft clicking sound. Like a broken radio trying to speak, another shadow moved. Behind it, two of them now, both searching, both silent. Jake looked at Luma, his voice barely a whisper. "There's two. There will be more," she said. "This is only the beginning." Suddenly, the pod upstairs glowed brighter. The puppies inside began to stir. A soft humming sound came from the garage. The Varkon turned toward the house. Eyes locked on the signal, Jake's scanner beeped. They were coming fast. He stood up and pointed the rod toward the front door. Luma ran to the garage, trying to calm the pod. Max barked loudly. Charging toward the door, the first Varkon leaped through the window. Glass shattered, and Jake pressed the button. A blinding light filled the room, and the creature screamed. It flew back into the wall, smoke rising from its skin. Jake ran to check the window. The second one was gone. Luma returned, eyes wide. "We need to move the pod now," she said. "They've marked the house." Jake grabbed his car keys. "My truck," he said. "We'll take it to the hills." Near the old mine, Luma nodded. "Good. They can't track well underground, together." They carefully carried the pod to the truck. The puppies glowed inside, unaware of the danger outside. Max jumped into the front seat, barking at the trees. Jake started the engine, and they sped down the dirt road. Behind them, the Vark roared in the distance. More were coming. Faster now. They've called their hunter packs. Luma said, "They'll track the pod anywhere unless we mask it fully." Jake gripped the wheel tightly. What do they want with the puppies? Luma hesitated, then spoke. They believe the hybrids are a threat. A new life that could end their rule someday, so they want to kill them. Jake asked. No, she said. They want to use them, twist them into weapons. Jake shook his head. Not on my watch. They reached the mine entrance just before dawn. Jake unlocked the gate and drove inside. The old mining tunnels went deep, far from any signal. They parked the truck and set the pod on the ground. The humming slowed, and the pod calmed. The puppies floated quietly again. Safe for now, Jake sat on the cold floor. Exhausted, Luma stood guard at the tunnel mouth, scanning the surface. We can't stay long, she said. They will search every inch of this land. Jake looked at the pod and then at Luma. Then we'll keep moving, he said, as long as it takes. Above ground, in the dark woods, a pack of yellow eyes watched the road and somewhere beyond the stars. The Varkan leaders prepared to strike, inside the cold, dark tunnel of the old mine. Silence wrapped around Jake like a heavy blanket. The air smelled like dust, metal, and forgotten time, but inside the garage-sized space where they had parked, a soft glow pulsed gently. The pod was still alive, still humming, still protecting. Something that felt bigger than anything Jake had ever known. Luma sat nearby, eyes closed, her head lowered. She was meditating. Or at least that's what it looked like. Jake didn't want to disturb her. He stood next to the pod, watching the tiny shapes floating inside. Each one was small, glowing faintly, and slowly moving. They weren't born yet, but Jake could feel something. Something strange, something warm, something familiar. He placed his hand gently on the surface of the pod. The moment he touched it, everything changed. A wave of light passed through his body. He couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe. But he wasn't scared. Instead, he was. Somewhere else, he stood in a white space that stretched forever. There was no floor, no sky, just light. And then he heard them. Voices, soft and curious. Like children whispering, "Are you him? Is he ready? He feels scared, but kind. We like him." Jake turned around, but saw no one who's there. He called. The voices giggled gently. "We are us. We are the pups. We know you." His heart pounded. "You. You're not even born yet," he said. "Born is just a word." One voice replied. "We feel, we see, we remember." Jake was speechless. He wasn't just hearing them. He was connected to them. They were showing him flashes. A field with twin suns, a world made of green crystal trees, Luma as a puppy chasing stars. He saw Earth too, from space, from above, as if they were watching even before arrival. Then the vision changed. He saw darkness, fire, metal claws, the Varkan. Tall, brutal eyes like lightning storms. He felt fear and anger coming from the pups. "They want to take us," one said. "They want to twist us," another added. "You must protect us, Father." That word hit Jake like thunder. "Father," he whispered. He had no kids of his own, never even imagined being one. But something about these voices, these tiny minds, it felt real. It felt right. Then the light faded, and Jake was back in the mine. He stumbled backward, eyes wide, gasping for air. Luma opened her eyes and rushed to his side. "What happened?" she asked. I spoke to them," he said, shaking. "I heard their voices." Luma helped him sit down. She looked at the pod, then back at Jake. "That should not be possible," she said. "They are still forming. Their minds aren't complete yet." Jake wiped sweat from his forehead. "They're more than you think," he said softly. "They see, they feel, they know what's coming." Luma was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "I believe you," she said. "The hybrids. They may be evolving faster than we imagined. Jake looked at the pod, his expression full of wonder and worry. "They called me father," he said. Luma smiled gently. "They chose you," she said. "That means something." Suddenly, the scanner on Jake's wrist beeped. The quiet moment vanished. He looked down. A small energy spike had been detected. Luma jumped to her feet. "Ears up, Varkon?" Jake asked, standing quickly. "No," Luma said. "This signature is different. It's not one of them." They checked the surface entrance using a tiny drone. On the screen, they saw a figure standing near the rocks. Not tall, like the Varkan. Not armed, a humanoid in a worn-out spacesuit. Waving slowly, Jake narrowed his eyes. "Is that a person?" Luma adjusted the lens. "There's something strange," she said. "They're broadcasting a message." The screen flickered. Then words appeared. "Peace. Help. I know what the pups are." Jake's heart skipped a beat. Someone else knew. Not just about the pod, but about what the puppies truly were. Luma looked concerned. "We have a choice," she said. "We stay hidden, or we go out there and listen." Jake looked back. At the pod, the tiny shapes floated gently, glowing even brighter now. He turned toward the entrance. "I'm done hiding," he said. "If someone knows something about them, I need to hear it." Luma nodded slowly. "Then we go," she said, but carefully. As they walked up the tunnel together, the cave behind them glowed softly. The pod pulsed once, and the voices inside whispered, "More is coming. Truth and danger." Outside, the stranger waited, and with him, secrets that could change everything. The stranger stood still at the edge of the rocks. Dust blew around him as morning light touched the surface. He wore a helmet, cracked and faded. His suit covered in dirt and scratches. Jake stepped forward, one hand on his energy rod, the other clenched with nerves. "Who are you?" he shouted, voice echoing off the stone walls. The figure raised both hands slowly, showing he held no weapon. "My name is Rilo." The voice came through a small speaker, calm and steady. "I'm not Varkan." Luma stepped beside Jake, scanning the figure carefully. "No Varkan signature," she whispered. "But his tech is mixed. Canadran parts, earth wires, something else too." Jake looked at Rilo, confused. "You said you know what the puppies are?" Rilo nodded, removing his helmet slowly. He had pale skin, silver eyes, and long scars across his temple. "I was one of the first human test pilots sent through the deep jump gate," Rilo explained. "We made contact with Canadra 10 years ago." In secret, Jake's mouth opened, shocked. "Wait, humans knew about your kind already?" Luma's eyes narrowed. Impossible. That mission was erased from all Canadran records. Rilo looked at her, pain in his eyes. "Because I wasn't supposed to survive," he said. "But I did, and I saw what those pups will become." Jake stepped forward. "What do you mean? What will they become?" Rilo looked toward the cave entrance. "They will change everything, not just for Canadra or Earth. They are bridges between species, between worlds, between what was and what will be." Before Jake could ask more, a sharp sound cracked. Through the air, it was high-pitched, like a digital scream. Luma's ears snapped up. "No," she growled. "They found us. From the sky, 3 black spheres dropped like stones. They hit the ground and cracked open. Varkan soldiers emerged. Tall, armored, with glowing weapons and claws ready. The hunt had truly begun. "Get back to the cave." Jake shouted. Rilo pulled out a strange blaster. "Made from Canadran parts and earth metal. I'll cover you," he said, firing at the nearest Varkan. Jake and Luma rushed into the mine. The pod was already reacting, glowing red, vibrating. "They're scared," Jake said, touching the glass. "We have to protect them." Luma activated a defense grid. A barrier of blue energy shimmered in the air. The Varkan entered the mine mouth. claws dragging on the stone. One of them roared, and the others followed with terrifying speed. Jake pressed the energy rod again. It flared with bright light, stopping one of the Varkin in its tracks. But the others dodged, faster this time, more aggressive. Luma leaped forward, claws out, moving like a silver flash. She hit the lead Varkin hard, knocking it into a wall, but the second one tackled her, slamming her to the ground. Jake ran forward, yelling, swinging his rod. He hit the creature's side, stunning it. Relo appeared from the shadows, blasting another Vark from behind. "Don't let them near the pod," he shouted. The pod began to pulse brighter. The puppies were responding, reaching out with strange energy. Suddenly, a soft voice echoed through the cave. "Protect, shield, safe." A wave of invisible force burst from the pod. It threw the Varkin back, crashing them against the stone walls. Jake, Luma, and Relo were pushed too, but gently like wind passing through water. The pod glowed brighter than ever, and then a crack appeared on its surface. "They're waking," Luma whispered, breathless. One of the floating shapes inside began to move faster. It kicked, spun, and let out a sound, not a cry, not a bark, but something between. The Vark, and badly hurt but still alive, stood again. Their leader growled, staring at the pod with hungry yellow eyes. "Take it," he hissed. "They are the future and the weapon." Jake stepped in front of the pod. "No," he said, voice firm. "You're not touching them," the Varkin charged. But before they could reach him, a beam of white light shot from the newborn pup inside. It hit the Varkin leader directly in the chest. He screamed, frozen midair, then exploded into particles of glowing dust. The other Varkin turned and fled. Not out of strategy, out of fear. They had seen something they didn't expect. Power that was pure, not made for war, but impossible to control. Silence returned, except for the soft hum of the pod. Jake dropped to his knees. Heart racing, Luma sat beside him, bleeding, but alive. Relo stood near the entrance, amazed. "They're not just hybrids," he said quietly. "They're something new." The pod cracked fully open. A small silver pup stepped out, eyes glowing blue. It looked up at Jake, tilted its head, and smiled. "Hi," it said, in a soft, clear voice. "Are you my dad?" Jake's eyes filled with tears. He smiled, reached out, and whispered, "Yeah, buddy, I think I am." And behind the pup, 5 more tiny lights began to stir. Asterisk, the sun was rising above the hills, casting gold across the mine entrance. Jake sat outside with the silver pup in his lap. It was warm, light, and strangely calm. Its small eyes glowed like stars, full of knowledge it shouldn't have. Luma stood nearby, her body still healing from the fight. Rilo worked on repairing the damaged scanner, tapping wires together with shaking hands. Even Max was quiet, lying next to Jake, watching the little pup breathe. Everything felt peaceful, but only for a moment, because something was coming high above Earth. Hidden by clouds and satellites, a massive object entered orbit. It moved slowly, silently, like a shadow stretching across space. The Varkone mothership had arrived. And it wasn't hiding anymore. Inside the mine, the other 5 pups had awakened. They hadn't spoken yet, but they moved with purpose. They followed the first pup, the one who called Jake's dad, and stood around the pod like a circle. Their glow pulsed together now, forming patterns on the ground. Luma stepped closer, staring at them with awe. "They're forming a link," she said quietly. Jake raised an eyebrow. "A what?" "A shared mind. They're joining thoughts." Jake watched as glowing lines spread from their paws. The lines connected in the shape of a star. In the center, a new light began to rise. Relo entered the cave with a dark expression. "The Varkon ship has entered Earth's orbit," he said. "They're going to land, and this time, they won't send scouts. Jake stood up quickly. Can we run again? Luma shook her head. No place is safe now. This isn't a hunt. This is a takeover. Relo turned to the pups, his voice full of fear and wonder. They're not just children, he said. They're signals, living keys. They were meant to awaken a system we don't understand. Jake frowned. What system? Before anyone could answer, the first pup stepped forward. Its voice echoed louder than before. We were made to end the war. The others nodded slowly. We carry what both sides lost. Peace, memory, balance. We were never meant to be weapons. Luma's eyes widened. They're connected to the origin code. She whispered. Jake looked confused. What's the origin code? The first blueprint of life, she explained. An ancient program hidden in Canadran DNA. Some believed it was myth, but the hybrids? They've unlocked it. Suddenly, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling of the mine, and the scanner lit up in red. Landing confirmed, Rilo said. The Varkan mothership just touched down 30 miles north. Jake clenched his fists. They're coming here. Luma nodded. And they're bringing everything outside. The skies turned dark. Storm clouds rolled in fast, unnatural and pulsing with static from the clouds. Varkan transport ships dropped like knives, thousands of them, falling silently toward Earth. Back inside the mine, the pups formed a tight circle. The glow around them became brighter and brighter. The cave walls shook, but the light kept growing. Then, one of them looked at Jake and said, You must choose now. Stand and protect. Or hide and lose us forever. Jake looked at Luma and Rilo, then back at the tiny creatures glowing like stars. He took a deep breath. I won't run again. He walked to the center of the cave and knelt beside them. I'll protect you, no matter what comes. The moment he said it, the light wrapped around his body. His scanner melted into his arm, forming a glowing symbol. Luma gasped. They've marked you. Jake looked at the symbol on his wrist. It looked like a star with 6 tails. What does it mean? You are now part of their link, she said. You carry their signal. Their bond. Outside, a massive roar echoed across the hills. The Varkan army had begun their march. Hundreds of dark shapes moved across the land, weapons charged, eyes burning in the sky. The mothership opened like a flower of war. Jake stood tall, no longer afraid. Luma and Rilo stood beside him, and the 6 pups floated above the ground, their bodies wrapped in soft white fire. They want war, Jake said. Let's give them something else. The cave exploded with light. A beam shot into the sky. It passed the clouds, struck the Varkan ship, and for a moment, the entire sky turned blue. Time itself seemed to stop, and across space, something ancient woke up, a deep, quiet voice whispered through the stars. Unity achieved. Then, silence again. Jake looked at the pups, who now hovered quietly. They're not just new life, he said. They're the answer, but the Varkan had only begun, and soon Earth would become the final battlefield. The ground was trembling now, from the edge of the mountains to the sea. Everything shook like the Earth itself was holding its breath. The Varkan army had landed, thousands of them, marching with metal boots and weapons that hummed like monsters. Breathing in the sky, the mothership floated like a dark god. Its shape spread across the clouds, blotting out the sun. Long metal arms reached toward the earth, and from them, fire began to fall. Not fire that burned, but fire that erased inside the mine. The 6 pups hovered quietly, their eyes closed, their bodies glowing like soft stars. Jake stood between them and the cave entrance. Luma beside him, her silver fur now streaked with ash and battle marks. Rilo adjusted the last of the power nodes around the cave. He had built a shield from scrap and alien tech. It wouldn't hold forever, but it might be enough to buy them time. The scanner on Jake's wrist lit up again. A voice came through, robotic and cold. "Surrender the hybrids," it said, "or Earth falls with them." Jake clenched his fists. "They really don't get it," he muttered. Luma stepped forward, eyes glowing. "They think this is about power, but it's about life." Then the first wave came. Varkan soldiers charged through the hills, leaping over rocks, crawling down cliffs. Their armor was thick, and their claws were longer than swords. They roared, aiming their weapons. At the cave, Jake looked at Luma, nodded once. No more running. The pups opened their eyes together. A single note hummed through the air. It wasn't loud, but it made the earth pause. Even the wind stopped, like it was listening. From the center of their circle, a shape began to form. Not a weapon, not a shield, but a memory. A beam of light shot into the sky. It showed a vision: Canadian cities floating in space. Children laughing, humans and aliens working side by side. A future that hadn't happened yet. The Varkan leader hesitated. He saw the vision too. His eyes burned, not with rage, but fear, because he realized this wasn't war. This was evolution. Jake stepped forward, holding the silver rod like a torch. "You wanted to destroy them?" he said. Voice steady, "but they're not weapons. They're peace. They're the next story." The Varkan didn't answer with words. They charged again, screaming. Their weapons raised, but this time, they didn't reach the cave. The pups sang, not with mouths, but with energy. Their light turned into waves. The cave glowed like a sun. Had been born inside, and the energy spread out across the land. The Varkan army was stopped mid-run, frozen by the pulse. Their weapons dropped from their hands. Their armor cracked open like eggshells. And what stepped out wasn't war. It was memory. Each Varkan soldier saw something from their past. A time before they were soldiers, before they were monsters, they saw stars. Families, music, and dreams. And some of them cried. The mothership fired once more. A massive beam aimed at Earth. But the 6 pups rose into the sky. Their bodies merged into one shining form. A creature of light, of fur, of voice, and will. It met the beam in midair and didn't just block it, it turned it back. The light bent, curved, and shot straight into the mothership. The sky turned gold for one long moment. Then the ship shattered like glass. Silence, the pups floated back down, separating gently like petals from a flower. They landed one by one, quiet, glowing, peaceful. The war was over, not because it was won with fire, but because it was undone. With memory, Jake dropped to his knees. Overwhelmed, Luma leaned against him, smiling weakly. "You did it," he said. "No," Luma replied. "We did." Rilo walked toward them. Hands shaking, eyes wide, they showed us what we could be. He whispered, "And what we forgot?" The pups sat in a circle again. The first one looked at Jake, smiling. "Home now?" it asked. Jake laughed softly, wiping his face. "Yeah," he said. "Let's go home." The earth was quiet again. The wind returned, brushing gently through the trees. Birds sang. Light returned. And people stepped out of their homes, looking up at the sky with wide eyes and hopeful hearts. No one would ever forget what happened. Not the light, not the voices, not the silence that came after, but no one feared it, because it was not the end. It was the beginning.